Welcome to the Trumpet of the last few days. I'm Stanley Farrar.
And I'm Robert Farrar.
And I'm Joshua Farrar, perpetually making my own job harder.
We find that today we find I saw a interesting thing on my phone. I watched Boris Johnson's speech to the G7, and in that speech, he outlined every leftist agenda for the international communists that there is, as he presented what he was supporting in this G7 summit. As
Remember,
they,
he's the
to
leader of
quote
the
him,
Conservative Party.
build back better.
Makes you wonder
Yeah.
why the leftists
But
hate him so much.
Yeah,
yeah, I
really.
don't understand because he strictly
'Cause he
stated
supports Brexit.
that that's it. Yeah, because he took and was after in equality. He was after building back better after this vile COVID pandemic, bringing forth equality and feminism and environmental rights and and pushing forward to a greater environment. The international communists have been pushing that "Build Back Better" as their slogan since since the start of COVID, and stated this was their chance to make the world communist. Well, obviously, Boris is online, and Johnson is on in all for it.
So, here's my conspiracy theory, right? He's been lying low this whole time, trying to get this Brexit thing passed, in a convoluted plot to get Moose and Squirrel.
But moose and squirrel are not easy to get.
The question being, where
But
is
Biden was
Where's
Natasha?
sitting there
Natasha?
beside him looking. But Biden was sitting there beside him looking asleep, at least half asleep. And the Prime Minister of Canada was looking at him enraptured. Of course, he's a communist, we all know that.
Yeah, but wait a second. That wasn't she up there speaking.
That's true, so he shouldn't have been so
Everyone
enraptured.
knows he just adores she.
Well, everybody knows he's a puppet for she. But no, he's. They kept having to push the camera people back.
Well, the thing about Xi Jinping, right, is we all know Winnie the Pooh comes from Britain. So it's not all that surprising
That's
that he's
true.
idolizing Boris.
So wait, why would they have to keep pushing the camera people back?
Because they kept crowding the national leader. They were there was no social distancing in this. They were just packed in it.
But with that
No, it's not at all
terrible
surprising.
Indian variant going around, Ever will
Didn't
they
you
But
know,
that
do?
new
Robert?
variant
The
in
That's
best
Texas
from
way,
Britain.
the best way to combat the Indian variant is to pack together like a bunch of Indians on a train.
Have you seen the pictures of that?
Yeah.
That's insane.
Wait, which kind of Indian are you talking here?
India,
Talking India
Indian.
Indian or Native
Indian
American Indian?
Indians.
I've
What?
never
Indian
seen a
Indian.
picture of an
So,
Indian on a train.
Robert, think about it this way, right? Indians on a train packed together much more tightly than sardines, to the point they have to have people outside actually push them in tighter so the doors can close. Not even kidding there. Our
That
Indians,
sounds like
And they
stories
have
from the
people riding on
Holocaust.
top of the train.
our Indians in regards to trains just get their lands taken and forced out of them so that we can put trains there.
See, that's a different kind of train. They formed a train to Oklahoma.
Now, I'm more talking about the massive land purchases and the aggressive tactics of the train corporations driving people off of their lands and property in order to make the train lines.
Believe it or not, the reason that they drove the Cherokee off their lands was not trains, but gold. Gold!
Well, in case you're forgetting, there were more than just Cherokee in the lands that they built trains on.
It's true.
The-
But I can
well,
say
when they
that for the
came to
Cherokee,
the-
they drove them out
the-
because there be gold in them hills.
When they were building the Transcontinental Railroad, they drove off more than just the Indians off their land.
Oh, yeah.
They drove the whites off the land too.
Anyone who was in the way. Any poor person who was in the way, anyway.
Mhm. It's kind of like how they took and got Lejeune Marine Corps Base. They took and escorted the locals that were living there off their lands at gunpoint.
hmm Which, if they had fought back, wouldn't have happened.
Well, it may still have happened, but it wouldn't have happened as easily.
It's a lot harder to hide
They would have
when,
been a bloody mess.
when people dig in and actually start fighting back.
Yeah. There would have been more of an outcry nationwide. But the, well, the Democrats idolize Jackson. He's the one that started their party. But he's the one that removed the Indians from the southeast.
Yeah. In direct
The Democrats have always been
in direct violation of Congress,
Hey.
if I recall correctly.
Supreme Court.
direct
Actually.
violation of the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
His famous statement, "Let's see him enforce it."
He should have been impeached for that.
He really should have.
But his party controlled Congress.
Both houses, yeah. And even then, even with his party controlling Congress, it only the Indian Removal Act only passed by one vote.
Now, when speaking about um, removal act, the governor of Texas has now signed a commission to arrest every illegal alien that enters the state and charge them with trespassing and numerous other crimes.
Including, but not limited to, human trafficking, drug trafficking. Let's see. Vandalism could have been one of them. I don't remember.
Smuggling.
Smuggling.
I think is illegal entry.
Illegal entry, yeah. Illegal
No, he
trespass.
can't get him for illegal entry. That's a federal crime.
Criminal trespass?
So
Criminal trespass.
yeah, criminal trespass, maybe.
Vandalism.
Breaking and entering.
Breaking and entering. See, all those are legitimate charges. And he says that they'll spend their time in America in prison.
Do it.
And he's signed up a treaty with Arizona to where they will aid each other in the process.
Really? That's fast. You know what they could do to
Yes.
the voting habits of Arizona? Because Arizona is
So
predominantly only votes blue because of the illegals. But you know, wait, if they signed a treaty, that means they're acting as countries of their own.
Yes.
They could be
They
slapped
didn't
with
call
sedition.
it a treaty, but it was essentially a treaty. They didn't call it a treaty. Yeah. They called it a.
So basically, it's another.
But he's also invited any and all other states to join in. But under the treaty, they can send they can send the National Guard from Texas to Arizona to stop illegal aliens, or vice versa.
So they really are just
The Arizona
acting
and
like
Texas
countries of
Rangers
their
can
own.
both work out. Yes, they are.
They'll be finding themselves an
That's
Arizona Ranger with a
fascinating.
big iron on his hip.
Which could be a very frightening sight, I'm sure. Especially if he's half as fast as the guy with in the song.
True. He was after Texas Red.
But Texas has also declared they're going to keep building the wall.
You could even say they're going to build back better.
Yeah.
Upgrade it with
They've
mounted
also
turrets.
declared that any property that's damaged or destroyed by these illegal aliens, they're going to sue the federal government for, because the federal government has a responsibility to secure the border, so they're not doing it. And it's the state of Texas that will be suing the federal government.
Nice.
Which means it has to go to the Supreme Court.
Yeah, but we all saw how the Supreme Court deals with those. They just don't hear the case.
Yeah.
Well, but that was when two
But,
states were suing each other. I think they have to take the case when it's suing the government.
I think they have to take it when it's suing the federal government.
We said the same thing when they were doing the last one, and they didn't do it.
Well, according
But that
to
wasn't
Thomas, they violated the law by not taking it.
Oh, they definitely did.
They did.
But what I'm saying is that the law doesn't really matter to them.
Yes, but they do value precedent, and there is established precedent for them being required to take a case against the government.
There was precedent for the last one too.
The precedent didn't exist. No, there wasn't precedent for it being required. Notice they love their little details there. But there is precedent for it being required against the government.
Now if Arizona and Texas build the walls, and they are starting to enforce the way they're saying they're going, that would force all the illegal aliens to head for New Mexico and California.
And then suddenly they make a pact with New Mexico, and they just all are funneled to California.
And
Well,
California would change their tune real
New
quick.
Mexico is an interesting animal. New Mexico is a very interesting animal. It's got a Democrat governor and a Republican Congress.
I thought that was Arizona.
No, Arizona has actually got a Republican governor and Congress. They just the big cities swing enough weight to be able to swing a national election, not enough weight to hold the state. It's kind of like in Texas. The big cities can do damage, but they can't take and swing the whole state. But while all this is going on, there's the Mexican election.
Yeah, it's a midterm, which means it's not even a major election. And they've had what was it, a record-breaking number of murders. Somebody threw a severed head into a polling booth, onto a polling area.
It's one way to get ahead of the polls.
Severed hands, severed heads. But they're electing
record number of kidnapping.
They're electing all 500 members of one of their houses.
Yeah. Right
That's
now,
pretty serious midterm
Mexico's a war zone. Because at the same time, you've got their hugs not bullets policy, while people are going around killing and kidnapping politicians. It sounds to me like the fabric of their society is disintegrating faster than the fabric of ours, that's for sure.
No, not faster, just longer.
Well, that's... Go ahead.
It's not been disintegrating faster, just longer.
Well, you've got the cartels running and controlling certain regions of their country. And the leftists clearly have taken over their legal system. It's just a formula for disaster.
So here's what we do. We get a bunch of Texans. We flood across the border. They'd meet us with armed resistance right off the bat.
Oh, you know it. The thing about it is that if you look at the states in and around Texas and Arizona, they're going to have to choose sides. Because Biden's already trying to fly in illegal aliens into other states. They flew into one state and they were met at the airport and told that they were to take them and fly them someplace else. They weren't welcome there.
Fly them to New York. Give them a real culture shock. They'll be so welcome. You know, like New York is such an accepting place. A bastion of liberalism.
Have you ever noticed how all...
If you would have recalled every...
Have you noticed how all those bastions... Have you noticed how rude and unaccepting all those bastions of liberalism are?
Oh yeah, every single one of them. You want to be called a bunch of slurs? Go to California, the big cities in California, or go to the big cities in the Northeast. You'll be called a lot of things, and most of them aren't good.
No. The thing about it is, well, Venice Beach, the new mayoral candidate for Los Angeles was attacked by a woman with a knife, and the sheriff's department wrestled her down and disarmed her. And so he came out with a statement that he was going to take and clear the Venice Beach of the homeless, because it was one of the homeless women and who were living on Venice Beach. And the city council has demanded his resignation.
I don't think the city council has the right to. Well, they can demand all they want, but I don't think they have the capability of actually forcing him to resign.
I don't think so.
Not being that the sheriff's department's county, not city.
In fact, I always kind of felt weird about this whole demand his resignation thing, because that's basically saying, "Hey, I can't fire you, but I'm acting as if I can." It always sounds like a hollow threat to me.
Oh, it is.
Well, what it is
And under
it's a public pressure. I'm gonna try to make sure
But in this
you
particular
don't get
case,
reelected if you
it's-
don't quit, and then you'll not be reelected.
the the city council has forbidden the police department from enforcing the laws down around any of the homeless enclosures, and Venice Beach is just one of them. And there are more homeless in California right now than there is than across the entire nation globally, not globally, but nationally. So they have more homeless, and it's no surprise because there's a lot of money in it. The city is pumping millions into 501c3 organizations that are designed to take care of the homeless. And the homeless get 3 hot meals a day. They take and get free drugs. They they basically are a junkie's paradise. And I
Uh,
suspect, I don't know this because the articles are
oh man, I lost it. What was that music
okay. I
festival?
suspect, but I don't know.
That music festival in kind of
Are you talking about?
Oh,
northeast-ish.
oh, oh! You're talking about
Woodstock.
Woodstock?
That's a junkie's paradise.
Oh, no, I was thinking
Only
Burning
during the
Man.
festivals. That's
Burning,
another junkies festival.
burning.
Yes.
Which
Well,
one? Which
music
one?
festivals in general are a junkie's paradise. I have never seen a good music festival, ever. But beyond that, I have never
I
seen one
have.
that they.
They're all gospel music ones though.
Yeah, but rarely do they actually call themselves a gospel music festival.
Your granddad put on 2 or 3 of them,
I said rarely do they call themselves a gospel music festival. And I remember a couple of
and
granddads.
he called them gospel music festivals. But anyway, when it comes to
We weren't there for very
the
long.
homeless shelters, the the people there are living in tents on the in on Venice Beach and other parks. They're using the sidewalks for toilets. They're shooting up drugs. They're robbing people. They are taking and going through and assaulting people. They've killed several people, and the city council's response to it is the police are not allowed to take and enforce the law around those camps. Well, the city council has no
Do they
authority
want
over
them
the
killed?
county, and I honestly think the Democrats want lawlessness, utter chaos, the destruction of society in order to establish their communist state. But because if people feel helpless and hopeless, they'll give more power to the government to give to so they can have security.
More specifically, if people think anarchy is a problem, then they are more likely to give up their rights for structure.
Yeah. And in this particular case, the city council has no authority over the county, and the sheriff's department has authority over law enforcement over the entire county, not just. And they're not excluded in that authority just because it's in the city limits. So the sheriff's department started doing the enforcing. Who do you think is going to come out looking good in this?
Sheriff's Department.
For those who want law, it'll be the sheriff's department. For those who want chaos and anarchy, it'll be the city council. So the Antifa, Black Lives Matter type that want the police department totally done away with and there to be no law, that their group would start making the laws and enforcing them. They'd be dead set against the sheriff's department.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a real tough time with this particular sheriff because they can't take and go through and yell at him for being a bigoted white because he's an Hispanic.
Since when has that ever stopped them?
Yeah, it means he's a bigoted Hispanic.
In fact,
wow,
I
so-called
have,
Hispanic. He's really white. We know this.
I have on videotape an entitled leftist accusing a black radio show host of white privilege.
That's hilarious.
It is a
yes,
very
I have
entertaining clip.
White. I have to be very careful.
It is a very entertaining clip. I recommend looking it up on YouTube. It is, it's amusing.
Yes, I have the privilege of being white.
Show.
I have to be very careful when I'm out in the sun. Very careful.
I was listening to a radio show where the announcer was talking about how somebody called him and screamed and yelled at him about his white privilege. And he said he stopped him. I said, "You do realize I'm black, right?" So instead, she called him an Uncle Tom and various other things.
Oh, of course. Name calling never ends. You just change tactics.
Well, it's like I was listening to a female black commentator who said that somebody took and called her an Uncle Tom, and she said, "Did you read the book?"
Hey, for those who've read the book, being called an Uncle Tom is actually a compliment. And a very good compliment, too.
Yes, it is. He's the hero of the book.
Yeah.
It is Uncle Tom's cabin,
Uh-huh.
not Uncle Tim's cabin, or I don't know.
But you see, they don't want someone who operates the entrance to the Underground Railway, someone who will help smuggle people to freedom. They want someone who will turn them in to the mob.
Of
So,
course,
of course, they
because
hate
that's
Uncle Tom.
because they're the ones that their ancestors came up with the Dred Scott decision.
I don't remember what that decision is.
You can't.
The Dred
Let's
Scott
see. Dred
decision.
Scott was. That was the one where he said that he couldn't technically sue in court because he wasn't a citizen, but if he were to sue in court, it wouldn't it wouldn't really matter because he was a slave and therefore had to be returned to his owner, didn't it? Wasn't it?
He was property, therefore he had no individual rights. So he had to be returned to his owner after escaping on the Underground Railroad.
Huh. Did the guy
And that
manage
was
to
the U.S.
escape again?
Supreme Court. I don't know. But they were
That was
fighting to
basically the
keep him
Supreme
from.
ruling that was the Supreme Court ruling that required Northerners to return slaves to the South.
Oh, okay.
If I remember right. Been a while.
I'm pretty sure you do. Now, when it comes down to that particular decision, that decision forced the Civil War.
Yeah, it did.
Because if you couldn't get away, you could not be free. Because a lot of the states
Then
that
there was
actually
only
passed
one way to
laws,
get
was, mhm. A lot of the states that passed laws making it where it was illegal to free a slave.
Hmm.
it. Those were old laws too. They were you're, you're talking like early 1800s laws.
Yeah, about the time they outlawed the importation of slaves. So you could sell somebody, you could enslave their children, but you couldn't set them free.
It's messed up.
And people wonder why I say the Democrats have always been evil.
Yeah.
Whether you look at it from the racist 1800s, or if you look at the modern racist Democrats that are pushing Black Lives Matter and critical race theory, it's all racism. It doesn't matter what the color is. Evil is evil. They promote uh, seg- uh, segregation, which is something that that was done away with in the 60s and 70s,
For good reason.
and they're bringing it back. They're taking and pushing abortion, which is murder. They're we live in a wicked society.
And then they try to spin it like like they've got the moral high ground. And the sad
Yeah,
thing is, people actually buy this junk.
yeah,
And I believe the
that
correct
is the
term is
sad.
for those people who are buying that. I've got some oceanfront property in Arizona that you might be interested in.
They drink the Kool-Aid and wonder why they die. And yes, that's a Jim Jones reference.
Yeah.
the
And Guyana will probably
the thing
forever
is,
be associated with that.
yeah, sadly enough.
Oh no.
Of course, the way they
When I
miss.
think of that cult, I still just imagine the Kool-Aid Man busting through one of the walls and smothering people with pillows.
Well, that
Got
wasn't
a weird
actually
imagination.
Kool-Aid. It was a.
I,
It
I
was the generic version.
I am aware it was not the name brand Kool-Aid, but a homicidal Kool-Aid Man is just in a very amusing image in my head, and honestly, I'm surprised that a lot of these adult cartoons haven't made the joke yet.
It's probably too dark for them. We're already seeing, thanks to the policies of our elected officials and them spending money like drunken sailors. No, no, no. That's giving bad names to drunken sailors. But spending money like it was water,
Dad, I would disagree.
they
They cannot
we're
spend money like drunken sailors because drunken sailors have already spent all their money. They have no money to spend.
that's true.
So, therefore, it would be spending money like a
Well, neither do
sober
they.
sailor. It would be spending money like a sober sailor
Money
becoming
he
a
doesn't
drunk
have.
sailor.
No, because sober sailors and drunken sailors are still spending their own money.
Fair.
These guys are spending money they haven't even got. They're writing hot checks. In every
Down
state
in
in the union,
Mississippi.
if you or I were to do it, we'd go to prison. But we're seeing the inflation kick in already. It doesn't help anything with the shortage. Robert, would you like to explain the food shortage?
Well, I mean, you've got the JBS hack that they paid 11 million to release the ransomware,
Oh, they shelled out
disrupt
too?
the supply line, still disrupted the supply line. Yeah, they shelled out too. And we've also got Australia, a major crop producing country, has had severe drought and now is dealing with a mouse plague. Now that the drought's ended.
You know
Let's
what would
see.
solve this mouse plague? Some good old-fashioned Australian brush fires.
Um, they just had those.
Yeah.
California is
They say
overdue
that
for its good old-fashioned brush fires and has been going through a drought. Texas had its extreme cold weather, which impacted the cattle industry. Other areas have had severe weather in the U.S. that have impacted agriculture, and food inflation is continue. Oh yeah, and China is buying up as much food as it possibly can because it is a desert. And for any of those people who are like, no, it's verdant, you don't know the numbers. Around Beijing alone, the amount of precipitation they get is, well, the amount of water they have access to is roughly on par with, say, Qatar in the Arabian Peninsula. the the only area that has ample sources of water in China is southern China, and southern China is not the majority of China. So they are
Well,
going
there's
through
also the
crop
issue that a
shortages of
majority
their
of
own and just buying up everyone else's crop at a
there
markup,
is the
I'm
issue
sure.
that China's water is so polluted.
Yeah. You know it's bad when your water scale
China's
starts
water.
with industrial use.
Yeah, that's the good water. The industrial use is the good water. Industrial use only.
So yeah, food prices are going up, and they're only going to keep going up. Pork prices alone are up 7%, which is a pretty big deal. And then just as someone who works with meat, I can tell you that beef is inflated outlandishly. We had to mark up one product that we had almost $10, which was almost a quarter of the price. So, yeah, it's and economists are torn on whether or not the inflation's here to stay, but I think it's here to stay.
So what
You
you
know, you have those economists that are like, inflation can't happen as long as you use your own money. As long as you deal only in your own money. They're idiots.
they obviously didn't learn the lesson of the continental dollar.
Or the greenback dollar.
Or the greenback dollar. Or Germany's uh, currency before World War II.
The mark.
Yeah,
The
well,
mark.
but what they're saying is that they're saying that the global currency is the US dollar, and therefore, or the US dollar being the most prevalent and most used currency is basically has unlimited demand. Therefore, you can make as much of supply as you want. Now, logically speaking, that's not how that works.
That
But that's
also
what
takes and
that's
throws in the face of history.
There's no such thing as unlimited demand on
yes, it
anything.
does.
Water and salt
No, there isn't.
And the
are two of the things that humankind need every day to survive, and there is not unlimited demand on them. Unlimited demand does not exist.
Neither does
true.
unlimited supply.
True.
They think
They're
about
they're
it.
throwing out
They
all the
took that.
fundamentals, trying to be like, we can spend as much as we want, and print as much as we want.
That that's because they're following a communist economic model. They believe in the Keynesian approach, which has been disproven all over the world.
But we're seeing right now, we're in inflation. If it goes up from, so the estimated minus food and fuel, the estimated inflation rate is around 5%. Now, if you include fuel and food, well, fuel alone is up 56%. We're in hyperinflation now. But if excluding
When you take,
those, hyperinflation technically hits at 2%. So we're about halfway to hyperinflation excluding those.
you know what the inflation rate was when it was considered an ungodly amount during the Carter administration?
4%.
I was gonna guess 3.
No, 20%. And
We
but in some areas only 12.
we're at, well, because I've been reading and they've been saying that our current inflation hasn't been seen since Carter.
Yeah, that's true. It hasn't.
But we're still only at the low end of Carter.
Yeah. There's a
So
reason
the
he
Carter
came up with his misery index.
So the Carter administration actually did witness hyperinflation.
Yes, it did. And all his policies
Thus
are the
proving
same
Dave
ones they're
Ramsey
using right
knows
now.
nothing about his historical economics. Because Dave Ramsey's trying to say that no
When it
inflation's coming
comes,
and that there have only been 3 instances in modern times of hyperinflation. And I can name 5
I can
just
think of
off the
more
top of
than.
my head.
Now you take the in Germany during World War II, the Reichsmark took well, I should say before World War II, during the Great Depression, the Reichsmark uh, was the only thing they did business in. So that should have, according to their theory, meant that there would be no hyperinflation. But there was such hyperinflation that you would take 1,000,000 Reichsmarks, buy a loaf of bread.
Well, okay, let's look at the historical precedent here. We've got the Reichsmark, which they printed and printed and printed so much so that they stopped even putting it back on the bill, and it was worthless. Got Venezuela, done the same thing. Peru did it. Zimbabwe did it. It all had the same outcome. And the U.S. did in the 1800s.
Yeah. The whole point when it comes down to an unbacked currency, if people have no faith in it, it has no value.
All
It
right,
only
save your
has the
bullets.
value of the people who have faith in it. Now they're
Bullets
valuable.
have
They may
inherent
be
value.
currency in the um, if it goes to a hyperinflationary system, it is very likely that the general populace is going to have to go to barter and trade.
Yeah.
That's usually what happens when an economy collapses. Start selling bags of your money made on Etsy. Bags made from your money on Etsy.
Yeah, see that's worth more than the money itself. So yeah, it's
Yeah,
like
you use them to stock
a
your
old
bathrooms with toilet paper.
there are
Yeah, because
people
we
that
don't have
can go
plastic money,
through
so
and no, we have cloth money.
we can make clothes out of it.
But you can take the coins, the hard currency, and most of them are worth more for the value of the metal than they are the face value of the coin.
Which makes 0 sense whatsoever.
And if you take and go in and get rolls of quarters or silver dollars or half dollars, there's if you get old ones before 65, they got silver in them and they're worth a lot of money for the silver. go in and take some quarters and get $75 instead of $1 for them. It's because of the silver content.
Mm-hmm.
They, but that's working off of a different value system than the face value system. And thing about it is that the people in office want greater dependency on the government. The more dependent we are on the government, the more they can control us.
Well, they're playing a dangerous
That's why
game, though, because if they cause a total collapse, it could go the other way.
Well, they're playing a very dangerous game.
Because people could.
Yeah, it could.
They're playing a game of chicken with
It's
the
very
economy.
easy to. Well, yeah, but if the economy, let's say it succeeds, they crash the economy, society starts to collapse. It can go one of two ways. They can lean on the government and say, "Help us," or they'll realize that the government stabbed them in the back and become independent.
Which is exactly what America has done every single time our currency has crashed.
Yes, it has.
Yes.
Every single time. Well, not every single time. Roosevelt was the exception.
And that's because he
And
introduced
Roosevelt's
the socialist
worrying.
policy.
So I think what we'll have is a divide in the U.S. You'll have
our last
you'll,
our last major crash. We did not see the same results as we did with Roosevelt.
You're talking about in the 70s? Or are you talking about
No,
2008?
I'm talking about the 2000s. 2008.
Yeah, that was 2008 was
Well,
the last major
the
crash.
the thing about it is during the time of Roosevelt, people started helping each other. We saw a drawing together of the people, which I grant you, he undid a lot of that with his social welfare programs that he put into place to undermine the charities and churches. But this last one, they didn't. People didn't draw together. They just turned to the government. It looks like the communists have won.
Because a lot of people lost trust in the government because of 2008. A lot of people still blame
Well, they should have.
the government for that.
It was a manufactured crisis in the first place.
It was about a 50-50 split from what I saw. From what I remember, about half the people leaned very, very heavily into the government to try to save them, and they got burned for it and lost all faith in the government. And the other half just tried to tighten their belt and live through it, and never relied on the government in the first place.
It seems to me like it's very likely that we're going to have a split nation when this all happens. And it'll probably come unglued. I mean, it's already coming unglued, but...
Well, depending
on
how it
see
happens,
the solidification.
Oh yeah, you're going to definitely see. Well, let's face it. Washington State's gone. It's brain dead. Whenever you take and start handing out joints to get people to take a vaccine, and you know that the culture's gone.
I heard about it and forgot about it.
I said that to one of my friends. He was like, "This is so stupid."
How do you say that? How do you save a state like that?
You get out of the joint.
Uh, that's yeah,
Ha ha ha.
that's what you do. And
Yeah,
think
get
about
out
it,
of the
people are
joint.
fleeing a
Go
lot
clean.
of these, but the way it looks like, well, we have half of Oregon has already voted to leave Oregon and become Idaho. The you have of more and more rabid communists taking and locking down people's freedoms and enforcing their way. They're not quite to the extent that Canada is in a lot of things, but they're getting close. It helps that we have a few sane judges that slap down unconstitutional laws like a California's is assault weapons ban, which the judge laughed out of court and said it was unconstitutional.
Judge Benitez.
uh,
Yeah, Judge Stickman, Judge Benitez. They're both. For those who don't know who Judge
but
Stickman is, he was a Pennsylvania judge who, no, it might have been Michigan, who declared, no, it was Michigan, who declared the lockdowns unconstitutional. You can see how well that worked.
yeah, it didn't stop
Another
a
one of
thing.
those.
It was another one of those.
They just
Let's
slapped.
enforce it.
Whitmer should be recalled.
And what gets me is the Republicans control the Congress and Michigan. They could have impeached her, especially after the Supreme Court judge. But nobody has the political fortitude to step up and do the right thing.
Well, for those of you in the audience who are enjoying the disintegration of this, our once great country, I certainly am not, and I'm sure not many others are as well. But if you like this episode, you can feel free to hit the like button and subscribe and leave a comment down in the comment section below. Till then, see you next time.